In this video, traders, we'll look at investing in solar companies. Stay tuned. Hey traders, a warm welcome to you. Okay, so this video we're going to look at solar companies and solar stocks and vehicles to invest in solar. So solar, on the face of it, looks absolutely fantastic, right? It's a free energy source. We've got that massive sun up in the sky that is always there. It's dead on time. It's very reliable. We can put these panels down the ground and create free energy from them. It seems great. It's clean. We know that fossil fuels are running out. We know that they're dirty as well. There's all sorts of reasons why. But ultimately, it's not as good as it seems because there's no free lunch, so to speak, because we have to clear out lots of land. There's a land cost to have those solar panels on there. You've got the deforestation impact of potentially clearing out land to put panels on. A lot of upfront infrastructure costs, a lot of research and development required. So it seems like, yes, it's really, really good, but, from a personal perspective, I think that many years down the line, it's the way to go. It makes a lot of sense from a renewable energy source. But from an investment perspective, we've got to be careful that we're not just diving in based on the whole theory of what it's going to look like in 20 years time, because some of the companies are definitely not going to be there in 20 years time. So we have to pick the right company or the right vehicle if we are investing in solar for a long-term play that has the most potential to come out on top and to be the one that's actually supplying a lot of the country or country's energy with solar. So investing in solar companies, the first thing is to track cash flows. We want to make sure that cash flow is solid. You know, these are kind of two similar things here, guys. We've got avoiding the debt and tracking cash flows. Let's talk about them together. So, you know, it's going to take a lot of money. You've got to buy all the equipment. You've got to have a lot of the infrastructure in place. You've got to have staff. You've got to have offices. And these solar companies are kind of less than 10 years old. So they have to take on a pretty hefty amount of debt. And that's fine if they are using that debt wisely, if they are making some revenue, bringing some cash flow in. What you don't want is a company that's got a massive amount of debt and is really struggling, and they're kind of thinking a little bit too far and they might not get the traction they need. So just being cautious about that. Obviously watching cash flows to make sure that, because this is such a big upfront cost sector. You know, they've got to design these things, they've got to do the research and development, they've got to have this, they've got to have the staff, they've got to have the installation. Think of all the things that go into place to get a solar panel done and installed and what have you. So there's a lot of upfront cost to it. And that leaves companies vulnerable, as we know. You've got a lot of upfront costs and you're not bringing in the revenue on the back end of that to cover that upfront cost, and that debt's just getting larger or whatever it may be. It doesn't take much for that kind of musical chairs to stop, and those are the companies that are going to go under. So just watch out for that cash flow and debt. A very important one here is tracking the track record of success. Yes, with solar, we're looking into the future and we're seeing how they're going to expand, but we want to see what these companies have done in the years gone by. And yes, we haven't got much data to go on. Like I say, most of these companies are less than 10 years old, but we want to see that they've spent a lot of money into research and development, because that's what's going to stand them out from the crowd. If they have something that is new, that is innovative, that makes people want to buy, either from a commercial perspective or consumer. And we look at consumer, we can look at Solar City. Obviously it's not trading anymore, it's under Tesla's umbrella, but Solar City, the consumer roofs that look very, very nice, and they will solar panels as well, that kind of thing. I'm simplifying a bit, but you get the point. If they're not investing in research and development, they're just providing kind of any old solar panel, they're probably not going to be around, because there's no barriers to entry. All they're doing is fitting and getting the deals in. So track record of success, how they performed prior, what have they done, what projects have they done, this kind of stuff really will make an impact as to how much money you're going to invest in, if you're going to invest at all. I'm thinking long term. We talked about long term. It's got to be a long term view. I think that these potentially is going to be good long term, but we don't know. You know, it's very early stages. It's, as I say, it's not a free lunch, so to speak. We've still got a lot of downside to solar. Will that improve? Will the cells be able to be smaller and create more energy? Probably they will. Perhaps there's a certain finite limit. Who knows? The thing is, it's exciting, isn't it, from a perspective, investor's perspective, and just from a human being's perspective, to see where this goes and how we can shift our consumption of fossil fuels over to renewables. With that being said, let's have a look at some of the vehicles that we could potentially use. And vehicles, I mean stocks or ETFs. So we've got some of the main solar stocks here. First solar is FSLR, SunPower, SPWR, SolarEdge, SEDG, and Vivint Solar. VSLR, HASI is Hannon, Armstrong. So those are the kind of the big boy stocks that you can look at and see if they fit your criteria. Then we've got other ways of doing. Actually, I'm going to put Canadian Solar in there, CSIQ just there. So there's a way of getting exposure to individual solar companies, or solar if you pick the best company you like. Other way of doing it is some of these ETFs. We've got the solar ETF here called TAN, which is one of the best codes out there. And 23 stocks in that. That's very specific to solar. So if you want a broad exposure to solar, this ETF might be looking at. Of course, don't forget longer term ETFs, there is a charge to have the ETF, so you know, weigh that consequence up against owning one or two of these. And the thing is, with 23 stocks, that's quite a broad range, but if you feel that you can do better in terms of picking out maybe the top 5, you might find that's a bit too passive for you, and you want to pick the top 5, and you want to allocate perhaps your resources a little bit differently. But if you just want some exposure to solar, that ETF is a good one to do it. Then we've got the Clean Energy Index ETF, that's ICLN, and then we've also got the Clean Energy ETF, which is 39 stocks here, which is QCLN. Those are some ETFs for you. Other way of doing it, guys, is to look, if you want to kind of find some solar stocks, obviously go on Google and look at solar stocks. But if you look at these ETFs and you go in and look at the prospectus and look at the constituents of the ETFs, you can see the weightings of where that cash is allocated, and you can also see a list of stocks. So it's often a good way of starting your research. Get onto these ETFs. If fund managers or the ETF manager have decided that those are the stocks they want to put in those allocations, it's not a bad place to start, right? You can take their expertise and say, okay, well, they've put X% into this, X% into that. Let me start these as a good research starting point, and decide if I want to replicate that, or if there's some I don't want to put in. You know, don't forget the ETF manager might have put 10 that you really liked and had to put some more in just to make it a broad spectrum. You don't know that, but at least it gives you an idea of how to start your investment. Anyway, guys, investing in solar companies, look at those cash flows, a big debt, record of success, especially R&D. Thinking long term, there's just a selection of a few solar stocks and ETFs you can trade if you want some exposure to the big old sun. Take care. Bye-bye.